Hi everyone, and welcome to Otakusphere Weekly episode... Wow, I believe we're up to episode 8 already. Time flies when you're discussing anime. I'm Karen, and with me tonight are Sal.
Yo!
Lifesong.
Hello.
And Delby.
Hello.
And unlike last week, we're actually going to do things in the proper order and do the general otaku chat first, because that was kind of funny last week. Anyway, last week I regaled you all with tales of my playing Muramasa the Demon Blade. I'm almost finished with it now. I've gotten both endings with Momohime and Kisuke, and I forged all the blades. I just need to... I think there's another ending you can get if you, beat the game with the ultimate blade you unlock if you beat it with both of them. So I'm going to try to do that, but after that I'm probably done.
There's 2 extra endings for both of them.
Yeah, so I still have one more ending to get with both of them. Yeah?
It's supposed to be based on, which sword you equip. I know for the final ending, you have to use the ultimate sword in the game. Obviously, the titular sword.
Yeah, this better be a damn good ending after how hard I worked to get this sword. Momohime and Kisuke better, get married. It better be an epic wedding. And you notice that's always my happy ending, is everybody gets married and has kids. Maybe too traditional, but anyway. And in other otaku news, I've been reading Chi Sweet Home. They released the manga some years ago, but they're actually re-releasing it in omnibus format, so I'm up to Omnibus 2. And I'm reading it. And I've seen the anime before, so none of it is new to me, but I just love it. It's so adorable. Chee! And now I want a cat, and that creates logistical problems, but I'm gonna have to figure that one out on my own time. So, LB, what about you? What otaku things have you been doing this week?
Well, I've been super busy lately, I've started one new job, plus I'm in the process of starting a second job in the next couple of weeks. So I've had a lot of nights where I've just come home and have not been in the mood to read subtitles or whatever. And so my wife and I will sit down, and we've been rewatching a lot of older stuff. We got through Devil is a Part-Timer for the millionth time. We got through Sword Art Online Season 1. We're working on Season 2 right now. And then last night on a lark, I just decided to start watching D.Gray Man, which I'm only about 3 episodes in so far, but it seems pretty good so far. I'm actually kind of surprised that I've never watched it before.
What exactly is D.Gray Man? Because I've definitely seen that name in a lot of places, but I've just never seen any of it.
I'm so far not at a point where I can explain the story all that clearly. I can tell you that it's got kind of a shonen-y action comedy vibe, and it's an exorcist who's fighting Akuma, and is trying to collect shards of innocence, whatever that means, from around the world before an evil mastermind is able to do it first, because if the evil mastermind does it, then the humanity will come to an end. And
that's never good. I don't mean the show's never good. I mean, it's never good when humanity comes to an end. Unless you're not human and you think humanity is a scourge on existence, then I guess it would be good. But I'm getting really off topic, and we're not 2 minutes into the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the main villain in that series is called Millennium Earl. He's a guy with a top hat and has an umbrella. And he's always smiling.
Yeah, he is terrifying. He's the goofiest looking, terrifying villain I think I've seen in an anime.
So, before I get too far into this series, it's 51 episodes. Am I going to hate myself by the time I get to the end of it? Or does it have, a really good, solid story and ending that, I'll stick with?
Oh, man. D.Gray Man is one of the biggest mixed bag animes I've actually gotten all the way to the end of. Parts of it are really, really good, and parts of it are really, really bad. I mean, if you've seen Bleach... it's on that level of how it varies.
Life. Is the bad part referring to that one dragged on filler arc?
Oh, okay.
I was just saying filler because...
Yeah, I haven't read the manga, but
no, because
I know that everyone when it was airing, blamed the bad episodes on filler. I don't know how accurate that is, but that was the
because
common
like in
thing
the manga that from what I read of the manga, which which was probably covered like maybe a good chunk of the series. Like it was very well paced. So
the worst part of the anime was that it gets to the ending and they're like right in the middle of a story arc. It just stops.
Yeah, to be fair, it's because the manga keeps going on hiatus since the creator Katsura Hoshino, like she has like some conditions where she's like getting sick a lot. Like I think she has like a hand problem too that makes it hard for her to draw.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, I've been there.
Other stuff. So now it's at the point where D.Gray Man's now a monthly shonen series instead of a weekly one in Jump.
It's probably better off for that, actually. I mean, it tries to do some pretty complicated things with its story, so it's probably better off for being a monthly. I'll also say that I know it's getting another anime, and I think it's continuing to some degree.
I think it might continue from where the last anime left off, like from that arc.
Yeah, like I know it has a whole new cast, so I'm not really sure how that's going to work.
Anyways, back to LB, so he can continue his segment.
Oh, that's...
Sorry, LB.
No, it's totally fine. I was actually glad to get that feedback on D.Gray Man, because like I said, I've only gotten about 3 episodes in, so I was wanting to just kind of make sure before I committed to, like 51 episodes of anime. But yeah, like I said, Devil's a part-timer, still love that show, Sword Art Online. Still love that show. Rake me over the coals if you want, but I still love it. And
I think all of us here enjoy Sword Art, so you don't have to worry about us doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, although this does remind me, I still haven't actually finished, I finished Season 1 of Sword Art Online. I never finished Season 2, and I know I have to eventually, but I'm kind of afraid to, because I have an idea...
Rosario is so good.
The last arc is really good.
Yeah, it's very emotional. Like, I cried during that arc.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that, because I'm someone who will cry during, like, not even very sad movies. Like the scene in Dumbo, where he's saying... where his mother's locked up and she just tries to like hug him with her trunk. I always cry during that scene. Although actually, come to think of it, that is legitimately sad. So that's not like a crazy thing to get to cry at. But not the good example of me crying at the drop of the hat. But anyway, I'll try to finish Sword Art Online sometime soon because it is kind of ridiculous that it's been out for like years already, and there's probably going to be more of it soon. I'm just behind.
Yeah, they're going to be releasing a movie pretty soon.
Yeah, I need to get up to date. So, okay. Well, I'm glad you're still doing plenty of anime watching, even if it's not necessarily our anime. Sal, what about you?
Well, this time I was trying to catch up. I was trying to finish up the anime from the winter season, Grimgar of Fantasy and Ash.
Oh yeah, that's another one where I've heard the name several times, but I know virtually nothing about it.
It's also a trapped in a fantasy world type of series, but like the interesting angle that the team was going with, like instead of it just focusing on the character trying to survive in this world, hunting monsters and stuff, it's actually focusing on them trying to also build up money and try to live in this world, like managing rent while trying to buy equipment, upgrade their class, along with buying food to survive.
Isn't that a lot like what Log Horizon did, a show I've only seen like smattered episodes of?
There's a big difference in Log Horizon. Yeah. Everyone in Log Horizon is competent.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the other thing too. Like the main cast that you're following, their teamwork really was terrible, and they didn't know how to use their classes properly. Which around the 4th episode, there was actually a drawback from that, which actually made the show a lot more interesting, as you had to see them overcome like that trial from their bad teamwork and not using their skills properly.
Is it a 12-episode anime?
Yes.
Okay, that means it's not completely out of the question that I might catch up on.
Yeah. And the thing, too, is like the way how it's told, you don't know if it's a trapped in a fantasy world like ReZero or Konosuba, or if it's a trapped in a game like Log Horizon or SAO. Like, that's like that's the other thing, too.
Yeah, they really downplay they really downplay the whole RPG aspect of it. I mean, it's clearly an RPG setting, but they never identify it as that per se.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll probably at least look into that, because I feel like at this point in my anime watching career, even if I don't watch every show, I should at least have a vague idea what most of them are. So, is that it for you this week, Sal?
Yeah. Also, like, visually wise, like, it has the way how the coloring was done, it has like a very watercolor look to it for the backgrounds and some of the scenes as well.
Oh, seriously? Okay, I'm watching it then.
Yeah. So that's like another reason to check it out too, just for the visuals too.
Okay, I love that look. There's a short this season called Usakame, which is a spin-off of TQ, where the show itself is really not good at all, but it has this sketchy watercolor style that I really like, so I keep watching it just for that reason. So I will watch most shows that have a watercolor style. So I will try Grimgar one of these days. So thank you for that recommendation. And Life, what have you been doing?
Welcome.
I am super boring this week. I barely managed to watch all my anime.
We need to come up with like otaku homework for you. You need to do something really, really esoteric.
I decided that I'm going to read the ReZero light novels when they're translated. Does that count?
That counts. Oh, I actually have a kind of cute light novel story, even though it's sort of a baby story. Oh, Sal's excited now. Now, my husband has been reading the Excel World light novels. I'm a fan of the anime, but I haven't read the light novels yet. Anyway, Yen Press has gotten up to 6. There's actually a lot of them. They're up to like the teens or something in the Excel World light novels, but only like 6 of them have been translated to English. So he was reading them on the train last week, and then he ran out. He came home and he told me, I'm all out of Excel World light novels. And then just at that very moment, Gwen was like, wah! Wah! And Wilson was like, I know, right? It was so cute.
Come to think of it, I think starting with Excel World Volume 5, I think that's when it starts passing the anime.
Yeah, I haven't read the light novels, but since they've been floating around the house, since he's been reading them, I've been kind of looking at them, and I picked up Volume 6, and I was like, yeah, none of this sounds familiar to me, so it must be past the anime. I think there's more Excel World coming out. I think there's a movie, so we may be talking about it soon. So that I actually like, well, this is, with the caveat that I haven't seen Mother's Rosario yet, I actually like Excel World a little more than Sword Art Online, so we shall see if I'm still saying that in another couple of weeks.
Well, a lot of people said that was Kawahara's like next story after SAO, so he's had more experience with the light novel with writing when he did Excel World.
Yeah, I just felt like the characters were... I don't dislike the characters in SAO. I just felt like I liked the character interaction development better in Excel World.
Speaking of which, like, I think Yen Press also brought over his third order light novel. I forgot the name, but
he does have a third one, doesn't he? But I don't remember either. Oh well, show notes.
I'll look it up later on.
Yeah, that's what notes are for. Okay, so I think we're ready to dig into our Senpai League for this week, starting with Big Order Episode 5. Oh my god. Oh my god.
What did we watch?
What just happened? Okay, so for the benefit of those who maybe have not been keeping up with Big Order, okay, you know that chick who was pregnant because he touched her hair ribbon? Well, she's not pregnant anymore for no reason. She just says, there's one line where she's like, oh yeah, the baby went away, and she's no longer pregnant, and there's no explanation. Although, considering they just introduced a guy whose superpower is apparently he can make anything that happens have not happened, it's not that... You could figure out what might have happened to her pregnancy, but it's just so weird that was such a huge plot twist, and then it goes away. And then they do, and there's this horrible fan service scene where they do that kind of censorship I hate, where half the screen is just filled with blinding white light and it like gives you a headache. And it's just like smacking you in the face, like, oh, buy the DVD so you can see the boobs that are where this white light is now. And oh god, I hate that. It's like, I could probably just rant for half an hour on everything that was wrong with this episode. I'm going to try to restrain myself, but it's just like, I don't even know where to start. I mean, I realize I started already, but still, this episode was just so out of the park. Like some people have been saying that The Lost Village is the train wreck of the season because they don't like the kind of off-kilter style it has, but even if you don't like Lost Village, I don't see how it could be a train wreck, because it's obvious what they're doing is very deliberate. Big Order, this is a train wreck right now. I'm calling it. Life, do you want to disagree with me?
No, I agree completely. I'm very, very sad, but I agree with you completely. It's just like, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I've been trying to think about how do I put this into words. It was just awful. I mean, I was still entertained by it, but it was awful.
Yeah. Oh, I am not dropping it, because this is like surpassed Valve Rave levels of train wreck, which I did not think would happen again in this lifetime. So.
But here's the question: are you at least enjoying Big Order in comparison to Valve Raid? I know Valve Raid made you suffer.
This show, it doesn't make me mad. I'm just sitting there like mystified, like what? They're doing what? But I'm not. For some reason, Valve Raid actually made me angry in a way this show doesn't. I don't know what the difference is, but.
I kind of feel like this episode just like rushed a whole large portion of the story. Like this could have been like 12 episodes.
Yeah,
that's what they would have needed to do this in a reasonable might not even be the right word. But
yeah, I feel almost silly asking you about like plot questions when the show has become this dumb. But I didn't understand something, so maybe you can help me out here. They do the whole thing with his sister, and I didn't really understand anything that went on with her. Well, I do understand that she and Eiji are apparently sleeping together, and good for them, I guess. But they tell her that she has advanced leukemia, some rare form of leukemia, and that's why she's only has a few months to live. But then, behind the scenes, they talk about like what her real illness is, and they insinuate it has something to do with the fact that she's having sex with Eiji, or something. Like, something about her real illness relates to the fact that she and Eiji are getting it on, I guess. I didn't understand that. Maybe
I don't know if that was what they were going for, or if that was just its own thing.
Yeah, maybe they were talking about something else entirely, because they're talking about...
I'll also say that I read in the comments on Crunchyroll on how reliable this is, but that whole scene with them in the bed, that's apparently anime original. Which makes me think it's probably not important.
Is this like the director of Kuma Miko going and like causing trouble on other shows now? Because
I don't know.
It's just that was pretty unnecessary.
It was weird. Yeah,
it could have been maybe the way just the translation thing that I didn't catch the nuance. But like they're talking about. I'm sorry.
Well, let me go ahead. Continue.
Well, they're talking about her illness, and they're looking at something, and then one of the guys says, well, we anticipated this because they're not blood-related, and then it shows them, like, pretty much getting ready to have sex. And it's like, wait, what does that have to do with her illness? Are they implying that she has something sexually transmitted? What? And he has it too? What the hell? I don't get it.
Maybe she got something from him. Maybe it's the same thing he got from his dad. You know, I think, and this is going back to speculation from before the show even started, I have a feeling that Daisy has more to do with everything that's going on than has actually been told to us at this point. And I say that mostly because in Future Diary, the characters, like, it's all based around the god of time and space, the fact that he's dying. Mm. And he was very central and core to the whole story. And I'm just kind of looking at Daisy, and you know, Daisy did show up talking to his dad in this episode. I'm like, there's something else that we don't know. It's got to be going on with Daisy. My first guess actually is that Eiji's wish is actually what's being granted here, and all the other orders and all the nonsense that's going on is actually because of him, and possibly because of his dad as well.
Yeah, well, I guess that would kind of make sense. But also, I didn't like the development that, if two people have a similar order, then the order that was the wish that was granted most recently takes priority. That just seemed like a cop-out to me.
I just heard that. I was like, this makes me think of grade schoolers making up superpowers for themselves and being like, oh, well, your superpower does this? Well, mine does this, and it counters yours.
Yeah, like, especially in that bit where Eiji tries to get Senna's wheelchair back, and then the guy's like, no, I cancel out your wish with my wish, and just brings her wheelchair to the other side.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a part of me that feels like that's okay, and that they can do something interesting with that. I'm actually glad that at least there's some structure to all of this. So I don't know. It is silly. I feel like it all could have been introduced better.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'm making fun of Big Order, I think I think the story could have been done well. It's just whether it's stuff they're introducing to the anime or they're just exaggerating all the flaws that were present in the original. This is just a mess. So
yeah, I mean, like the whole thing with like Rin's relationship with Eiji is like they're just pushing it. They push it forward so quickly in this episode. And you're like, oh, the whole ridiculous thing with the fires. I was falling out of my chair every time they did that.
Wait, which thing?
Where when she's thinking about Eiji, they flip they flip over to this field of fires, or this field of flowers, and there's this little fire that sparks up.
Yeah, and she just keeps thinking about Eiji and then thinks, my Dominator, I hate him. But Eiji, but he's my something. Oh. Anyway.
And then you have Eiji wishing to turn her back to normal, and I'm just thinking, you do realize that normal is she wants to kill you.
Yeah, right. That occurred to me too. And also, like, it just seemed so random and Star Wars-y at the very end for them to be like, well, he is your father. Because of the way powers work in this universe, there's no reason that someone who has a power related to his needs to be his father or anything like that. Or at least no reason we know so far. So it just seemed like totally out of plot contrivance-ville. Oh, well, the new villain, he's your father. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Like, every... Yeah, oh, God. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'll try to make my homework for our first segment next week is actually try to read some of the manga and see is this presented better?
Yes, please do some research and let us know, because this episode is just wow. I mean, I would almost recommend people who aren't watching this show. You don't even have to watch the show. Just watch episode 5 and just be like, wow, that is a bad episode of anime.
That would. Oh man, no, they would just come in like, what did I just watch?
Yeah. So, okay, we could probably compare notes about how terrible this was for like another 20 minutes, but I think we should stop. I think we've gotten the point across adequately. Okay, so let's tackle something much better. Kiznaiver episode 6. This was the first episode I feel like I was really emotionally invested in what the characters were going through. Like, I've kind of had, even the episode that I've liked, I've kind of had an almost academic sort of disinterest towards it, where I've been thinking like, I wonder what they're doing here, I wonder what they're doing with this, but I haven't really cared so much. This episode I actually started to care. And it's like, on the one hand, I think it's good that I felt that way, but on the other hand, is episode 6 a little bit late to finally start caring about the characters? I don't really know. Sal, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, like, I'm kind of surprised that, wow, we're actually getting an arc now this late into Kiznaiver.
What do you think of the whole Maki used to be a manga author and all this stuff?
I didn't expect the manga angle of it, but it's gonna be neat to see what led to her partner getting killed when we find out the truth next week.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Maki, regardless of what she said in episode 2, I'm pretty sure Maki did not murder her in cold blood. That did not happen.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
she just said as a literal term that basically that she killed her maybe from something she said or something she did, or maybe because of the fact that they started this manga together and the drawback from that, I guess, like as it got popular.
Yeah, well, we don't really know that much about her partner yet, except that she clearly had some issues. So. Could be a lot of
it's kind of cool that they did a samurai flamenco-esque type of thing for the film segment.
Wait, what? Huh? Come again?
Remember when what they did to save Maki towards the end of the episode?
Oh, by filming the film crew?
Yeah.
When did they do that in Samurai Flamenco? I'm blanking on now.
I was thinking like how when in the scene like towards the end when like a bunch of people were like exposing certain, I think it was the Prime Minister's plan, and everyone was like filming it on their phone, posting it on YouTube and on the web.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Samurai Flamenco was like 2 or 3 years ago already. Isn't that scary?
Yeah.
Feels like it was just yesterday. Oh, okay. Let's see. LB, what did you think of this episode?
I didn't watch it.
Wait, you're not watching Kiznaiver, are you?
No, I'm not.
God damn it!
I caught it.
I was getting better at this. I really was. Okay, Lifesong, what did you think of this one?
I felt really bad for Maki. I kind of saw where they were going with it early in the episode, and just like, I wouldn't say that this is the first episode where I felt emotionally invested, but it was the first episode where it kind of made me, I don't know. Really get interested in where they're going specifically with that aspect of the show, and I do kind of feel like it could have started here. Yeah,
I don't think there's any reason why this episode couldn't have come earlier. I don't know.
Yeah, or it could have skipped right from the screaming at what is the protagonist's name? White-haired kid.
Agata.
I got it. Yeah, right from the point where he's like, I don't care about myself. It could have skipped right from there to here, and we would have missed some cute scenes with, I'm terrible at this. Chidori?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have missed that, but story-wise, it's like, oh yeah, well, we kind of accomplished that in the first part, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I also like the moment where Agata says to Sonozaki, "I'm disappointed in you," and she flinches.
Yeah,
like that was a powerful moment because I think
was.
Yeah.
And I think it's in part because not only am I tired of that like emotionless girl archetype, but I think a lot of people are, and it was that whole thing was almost like slap in the face emotionless girl archetype. You do have emotions, so. And I just like the fact that he could, even though that wasn't necessarily his intent, I like the fact that he can push her buttons. It makes him more interesting as a character, that he's the emotionless girl can't be emotionless towards, so. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything further I wanted to say about Kiznaiver. Really, this was all Maki's episode. I don't think much else happened aside from the Maki plot. So, yep, okay. Good job, Kiznaiver. Keep it up. Moving on to The Lost Village, episode 7. I was really just annoyed at the way the episode ended, and that's kind of dominated my thoughts on it for the past couple of days, and I can't really think about much else. I'm just like, okay, they wanted to end it with Misaki being like, alright, just stop hurting him, and then I'll tell you everything, that's fine, but don't end it with her taking a deep breath and going to open her mouth and then fade to black. That's annoying. Okay.
Yeah.
But now that I got that off my chest, I do actually remember something I wanted to say about this episode, because I said last week that if it turns out that the penguin we keep seeing represents like a penguin stuffed toy that got ripped when Mitsumune was little, I'll be really happy. But then the silliness of that I was hoping for kind of was undermined by the fact that his brother died, so did not really enjoy it the way I was hoping to. But I guess I don't know how I really felt about this. I just kept thinking the whole time that whoever their family therapist was, Mitsumune's family, needed to be fired. Because that's not how you deal with a loss in your family. That is perhaps the worst thing you can do, but then I guess there's no story. Life, what'd you think of this one?
I liked it. I like where they're going with the characters. I'm glad they're introducing is not right, but finally explaining more and more of what's going on with the cast. I've kind of just given up on the mystery moving forward at any kind of reasonable pace. It's stalled for like the last 3 weeks now.
Yeah. When was the last time they introduced new information about that? Well, new substantial information, anyway.
I mean, we kind of got the whole ghost thing before it was revealed, and then they had the episode where they revealed it, and now they have the episode where they don't tell us what's going on. So yeah, at least 3 episodes. Now,
I wonder, is when Maki... I keep saying Maki when I really mean Misaki. When she spills her guts next episode, are we actually going to get a substantial reveal, or is the show going to, I don't know, do something stupid, like someone cogs her over the head right before she speaks, or something like that?
Oh, man.
I'm not actually expecting a reveal. I mean, maybe some kind of reveal, but the way the story's going, I don't really know. I mean, how many characters could they still have left to give us pieces of information about before they would do the reveal? I mean, maybe that's the question we should be asking.
Oh God, do you think up through like episode 12 they're going to just do character backstories, and then in episode 12 you finally find out what's going on?
I'm a little worried they might do that, and I'm a little worried the twist at the end might be, and you're all dead, and I'm sorry.
That's going to be really annoying.
Like they actually died in that bus crash.
Well, they would have been dead before that if that's what's going on, because... Well, I just really don't know. I want it to be something different than that. But if you notice in this episode, Misaki was talking to... I'm doing terribly with protagonist names. What is his name? Mitsumune, yeah. She was talking to Mitsumune about how he needs to get through the cave to progress, but he can't go back.
That does kind of sound like a go into the light sort of.
Yeah, that's a go into the light thing. I mean, they could be doing something unique with it, but if it's something we know and understand, and it's cueing us in on something we know and understand, it's a go into the light thing.
Yeah, I'm getting pessimistic now. The more we talk about this, Sal, what about you? Bring some optimism into our discussion.
Wow. I don't know what to say, but. Come to think of it, Misaki was able to go through the tunnel back. She was able to enter and leave the tunnel as she wishes. So maybe whatever she's going to be revealed is going to be related to that.
Well, I think we do know at this point that she's different from them in some respect. Whether that's because she actually is some sort of supernatural creature, or she's just the only one who's clued into what's going on, I don't know. But she can probably do things the rest of them can't. So,
yeah. There is one. I will say there's one bit of optimism I have left, and that is the what's her name, Lion, and her whole "I can see people who are going to die" thing. If that's real, that implies they're not dead.
That is true, because, well, is it possible she could have that power and be dead and not realize that she is one of the dead people she's seeing?
Yes, but I don't think this show. You were talking earlier about how Big Order is the train wreck, not Lost Village, and I think you're right. I don't think this show is bad enough to do that.
Yeah.
And also, like, everything that's been done so far is intentional.
It feels that way.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be able to say that, for absolute certain until we've seen it all. But it feels like there is a plan. We may not, whether or not we're going to end up liking the plan is another story.
Yeah,
but it feels like there's a
whole
concrete plan.
thing.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we're ready to move on to ReZero episode 7. ReZero, really strong episode this week. I said this week was the first time I was emotionally invested in Kiznaiver. It was probably the first time I was seriously emotionally invested in this show, too. Although in a different way. I just didn't really expect the show to kind of pull out such a hard-hitting episode. Although, I guess with the way Subaru dies often, it really shouldn't have been that surprising to me, I guess. But I think maybe I found his attachment to Rem and Rem a tiny bit forced, given the circumstances. But it was still powerful, I felt. Life?
Oh, I loved it. I was on the edge of my seat the whole episode. And, I've been questioning whether or not I feel like his attachment to Rem and Ram is forced, and I don't think it is. And the reason I don't think it is because his whole kind of way of self-motivating himself is, in the first arc, it's saving Amelia. That's so. I don't know. I don't want to say he has a savior complex, but it's that optimism of him that really defines his character. And without that, he doesn't really have anything else. I mean, really, that's it. That is his whole character.
Yeah, I guess that's right. Also, if you keep in mind how much time he's actually spent with him by his reckoning, he's probably spent, if you do the math, over 10 days with them, 15 days, something like that. They may not remember, but he's still spent that time with them. So, yeah.
I think at the end of this arc, it would have been 15 because he didn't really spend any time with them in the last loop.
Yeah. Also, I liked and was interested in how much Beatrice seemed to be invested in protecting him. It's almost like I'm not really speculating that this is happening, but it's almost like she's closer to him because she's also remembering what happened during the previous time, so she's closer to him than the other characters. Or maybe she has some other reason for being fond of him. I don't know. But
yeah, if you notice in every episode before now, she's always been keeping an eye on him. There's one scene where she's looking out the window or looking over the hall, just looking at him like she knows something. What it is she knows might just be that he has the smell of the witch, and she is curious about him. We don't really know what that means at this point.
Yeah. Just one more thing about this episode. I think it was a real achievement in this episode where there's that part where Subaru is thinking of throwing himself off the cliff before he eventually does it at the end of the episode. And sorry we're spoiling you, LB. LB didn't get a chance to watch this one.
Watch it anyway.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I was just saying I'm going to watch it eventually anyway, because I, do generally am enjoying the series, so it's, it happens.
Yeah, sometimes you miss a week. I'm sure I'll miss something before the end of the season. Anyway, that moment when he was considering throwing himself off the cliff, I kind of really felt the weight of that. The idea of kind of standing at the edge of the cliff and being like, can I really do this? Can I tolerate, the agony of dying for the greater good, blah, blah, blah. And for a series that's, about a kind of silly otaku dude trapped in a fantasy world, to actually be kind of grappling with those emotions is pretty surprising, I think. So...
yeah, I really love the way it just was it flipped the dark switch up and on, and it went with it, ran with it the whole episode, and I think it actually slipped a whole lot of world building in there too. I don't necessarily know how to make sense of it yet, but was very interesting.
Yeah, because it also dealt with the fact, well, why doesn't he just tell people that he's experiencing time? Because if they didn't deal with that, you'd be probably asking yourself for the whole series, why doesn't he just tell Emilia, such and such. So, on the one hand, we don't have to worry about, well, why isn't he just telling people? And on the other hand, the mechanism by which he can't tell people tells us something. So, I can't make sense of it either, but it definitely tells us something.
Right.
I feel like we could probably spend a lot of time trying to speculate what's going on with the jealous witch and what the smell of the witch on him is, but I don't think we have enough information yet. I think we'd just kind of be fishing in the dark.
Can I take a guess?
You're welcome to try.
Okay, I don't know for sure what's going on, obviously, because there's really not enough information. I've been trying to figure out the motivation of who is killing Subaru, and I can't figure it out for the life of me. But I suspect that the curse and the thing that summoned him are actually separate. And, somebody in the mansion has got to be the... oh, man. Maybe I shouldn't try to speculate just because there's so many possibilities. I think there's another witch, and that the idea that the jealous witch is the one that killed him is a misdirection, and that we'll find out that there are... I keep going back on there'll be 7 of them. I don't know there'll be 7 of them. But they did say witches plural when they were talking about the cult of witches. I bet you there's another witch, and I bet you that's what's going on. I don't know what they want or what they're doing, but I bet that it goes in that direction.
Yeah, I could see it turning out that the jealous witch is actually a good guy, and no one knows it. She's kind of like Dagon Zot that way.
Yeah, maybe.
So... Okay, so a really strong episode from ReZero. Glad you decided to watch this one at the beginning of the season. I'm sorry, I think maybe because I had like half-caff and I had a little bit of caffeine, I can sort of talk, but not really. Anyway, okay. Flying Witch, episode 6. I enjoyed this episode, as I always enjoy Flying Witch, and I like the bit about Chinatsu trying to become a witch, although something tells me I don't think she's going to. I think when she learns more about witches, she's going to decide she's happy the way she is. But I always feel with Flying Witch, I've kind of put my finger on what it is that bothers me about it. I always feel like we get like half an episode. By the time the credits roll, I'm like, oh, that's it? And it could just be a time flies when you're having fun thing. But I always just want more from this show than I'm getting, And maybe I'm just greedy. I don't know. Life?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I don't really have that feeling, but at the same time, I feel like I've watched a lot of these type of shows, so... Maybe I just expect less from it. I was very happy to see that Chinatsu is trying the whole witch thing, because I had that thought earlier in the series, like, oh, what if she is a witch? Well, I guess we've answered that question. She's not, but maybe she can become one, and at the very least, they're going to have some fun with it. I think my favorite joke in the whole thing was just that the older brother is sitting there watching Rambo in the background.
He is a Zen master.
He just doesn't care. They're practicing witchcraft. He does not care. His dad comes in and eats the magical cursed candies. Eats all of them and starts laughing and crying hysterically. Doesn't care. Just keeps on watching his movie.
Yeah, what's his name? Chinatsu's brother is like the Zen master of the season. I think he's like up there in Sakamoto's league or something. He
might be.
He's got something going on. But last thing about Flying Witch, why would you knowingly eat snacks that Akane had enchanted? I know she said, oh, you have to experience the spell to understand it, but why wouldn't, if she puts the Pocky in your face, why wouldn't you just be like, no?
I love the line where they ask her, well, would you do this? No, of course not. This is a terrible idea. Now eat it.
They're just too obedient. They're too nice.
It was great. I love that she's a part of this show. I don't know who I'd say is my favorite character, but I'm really glad that she's a part of the show.
Yeah. If it was just Makoto as our only witch, I think the show would definitely be lacking something.
I think she might be the weakest link of the whole show, which is kind of a shame because she's probably the most important character, if there even is such a thing in Flying Witch.
Yeah, I mean, saying she's the weakest link implies there's any kind of weak link to begin with, but I think she's probably the least interesting out of all the characters so far, which is kind of the opposite of how you would expect it. Like, I think the brother is supposed to be boring and not unimportant, but he's so zen, he becomes interesting, like, from the other direction.
He becomes interesting just because of the show that he's in.
Yeah. Just the most blasé. You know, you could probably put him in the middle of anything. You could put him in the middle of Big Order, and he'd be like, "This is all perfectly normal."
I can do this.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe next week's Flying Witch will actually feel like a complete episode of anime to me, and then I'll be really happy. So, excuse me. Moving on to Joker Game Episode 7, and I was annoyed with this episode. First of all, I was annoyed, and this is my own fault for developing expectations, but I really thought we were going to start getting more long-term plot in this episode, that it was going to start here. Based on the preview, it looks like it may finally be starting next episode, but who knows. So I was annoyed when we got another episodic, look at the spy, go on foreign adventure story. And two, the guy, the codebreaker guy, McLeod, was too dumb to live, and that really annoyed me. Because I expect this show, like, not that this show is, like, genius level all the time, it does do some silly things, but I expect smarter writing from this show, based on what we've seen so far, than a guy like McLeod, who basically does everything except, like, jump in front of a firing squad. Like, I mean, look at this guy. He gets plastic surgery, so, you know, he'll be in disguise, so he can go to another country and start a new life as a code breaker, but he starts talking to a random stranger on a boat all about code breaking, and this is in an age when almost no one knew about it. So he was, like, painting a target on himself.
You know, it didn't occur to me. Maybe I just turned my brain out. It didn't occur to me that the whole time frame thing until you just mentioned it. Now that you've mentioned it, that kind of changes my whole feeling on the episode. That is really dumb.
Yeah, he starts talking about something very few people on Earth know about at the time when he's trying to keep his identity a secret. When he went to the trouble to get plastic surgery to keep his identity a secret, then he just takes a random drink off a table when he already knows there's an assassin after him. Like, okay, it would be maybe a little paranoid to check all your drinks when you're undercover, but if you already know someone's trying to kill you, then yeah, maybe just drink from the tap on that occasion. So it's just, he was so, and then go ahead.
What was the whole Cerberus thing anyway? I mean, was that the one that actually got him? I mean, was that what actually happened? I wasn't sure if he keeps saying that name. I'm like, is that actually meaningful? And I never could tie that.
I think the woman's code name as a spy was Cerebrus because of her dog. So it's kind of like, oh, it's a joke that sounds really threatening, but it's actually just this nice dog.
Okay,
but in the end, yeah. I think anyway.
It was part of the romance of the episode. I got it.
Yeah, and then at the very end, or towards the very end, when who is it that comes aboard, like the Royal Navy or something, and then our
British Navy showed up.
Yeah, and then our heroic spy is like, okay, well, I'll tell you how that guy died, but you have to give me some time. And they're like, oh, we're totally okay with this. That's not at all suspicious. And then he goes and talks to the spy, and they actually talk about destroying the evidence. Like, why would they, when he says he knows something about the death, why would they be like, oh, okay, just go take your time, go throw some evidence overboard if that's what you feel you need to do? Like, who would do that?
You know, they were standing nearby. I don't know. That it did strike me as odd, but it didn't strike me as completely outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah, well, I want to say that even when I say things, even when I'm making fun of things, you can't really say that things are completely outside the realm of possibility, because sometimes you hear about things that happen in real life, and you're like, wow, people let that happen. So it's kind of a double standard if you don't allow for that to happen in fiction sometimes too.
Yeah, it's definitely the dumbest storytelling since the guy who was just evil and snapped.
Which character?
Episode 3, 4.
Oh,
the one you're probably writing out of your memory because it was the worst episode.
Oh, the Shanghai one.
Yeah, the Shanghai episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I don't know.
I'll also say that I'm really confused by the time period. Are we in 1940? Are they all in the 1940s? Because we skipped to the 1940s in episode 3, or are they all disconnected?
I think we're in 1940. I think, Great Britain and Germany are at war, but obviously Pearl Harbor hasn't happened yet, so there's still passenger ships going between San Francisco and Japan, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it would be nice to have a clearer idea where we are in time.
Especially if they're going to try and tie it together, because otherwise they're going to try to tie it together, and we're just going to be like, well, we don't even know if this makes sense or not. Yeah.
Oh, and also, I want to point out that McLeod, the guy who gets cyanided to death in this episode, I realize he's a code breaker. He's not a trained spy like the D agency people, or at the very least, he's not trained to the same level they are. But, it still seemed like he was failing things from, like, basic playing Spy Kids 101 sort of thing.
He did seem, the one saving grace of the storytelling, I think, is that he did seem super arrogant.
Yeah. I guess you could just say he just thought he was too smart to get caught, and, yeah. That does
he did. I mean, he did think he was too smart to get caught, but it is still kind of dumb, because he went through all the trouble of the plastic surgery, like, come on.
Yeah.
And then the thing with the ears, I'm like,
See, I saw people making comments like, oh, well, plastic surgery actually can change people's ears. I was thinking, well, could it actually change it in, like, 1940? And I was like, why am I even asking this question? Who cares? So.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right. It's just there's a lot of little odd things about the episode.
Yeah, I mean, next week starts a two-parter, so I'm hoping it's actually a two-parter. They've got to get back to, like, Sakuma and Yuki and, like, what was going on in episodes 1 and 2 eventually, right? I mean...
Maybe.
One would hope. I mean, it's
not...
Yeah,
I will say that I've complained about how Yuki makes everything predictable when he's involved, but at the same time, I think he's also the best thing the show is going for it. So they really should get back to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I haven't enjoyed some of these little spy vignettes they're doing, but it's not the show I thought I was going to get, you know?
Yeah, I actually really like last week with the kids doing the spy work for the spy. I thought that was cute. This episode, though, especially at the end, did he actually adopt the girl and the little dog?
I guess he must have, and I hate to put it in these terms, but, like, as a mother now, seeing that woman be like, oh, well, I really wanted to assassinate that guy because he killed my husband, but now looking at my daughter, I'm wondering if I should have done that. No, of course you shouldn't have done that. You're a horrible mother. You should have lived for your daughter, you moron.
At least she had some regret. I mean, I think overall this whole episode was an episode where it's like, oh, they were going for something cool, and they kind of got it.
I will say, I do appreciate the novelty that someone who was a German spy is actually presented as a sympathetic character, given the circumstances. Like, you don't see that very often. And Joker Game has done that sort of thing pretty consistently.
I'm actually very surprised that I like the moral angle behind the show. I thought I wouldn't. I when I first read about it, I was like, aha, if they take this seriously at all, they're not going to get it right. And they actually have.
Yeah, because I think what they're managing to do is show the moral grayness of the war. Even in a war like World War II, there still were bad guys on the good guy side and vice versa. And they're doing it with, at least so far, they've done it without apologizing for any atrocities. They're just being honest about things that happen in war sometimes. So.
Yeah, and it's easy for them to take that position, too, because the D agency doesn't really seem to like Imperial Japan, so...
Yeah, the D agency really seems like it wishes it was in another country entirely.
Yeah, like, it's basically Yuki's spy agency, and we've kind of got, his personality and not the atrocity that was Japan in that time period.
Yeah. Phew, okay. That was just a long stretch of us talking about Joker Game, I think. But it's all good. Especially when Spy can summon dolphins. That's a nice touch.
Yes.
Just random, out of nowhere, little touch, but... okay, so we're going to move on to Twin Star Exorcists, Episode 6, and this was another episode that I felt was spinning its wheels and didn't give us the background we need. There was like a hint at the end that they're finally getting there, but I don't even know how much I still care at this point.
What was the hint? I don't even remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I just know that some dude said something at the end, like, oh, this is what's really going on with the Kegare, or something like that, but I don't actually remember what it was.
I remember it being the only part of the whole episode that was important, and I don't remember the details.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, like, a completely inept episode. I actually kind of like the gag about the green-haired girl imagining Benio as the delinquent, because that is kind of a funny image.
That was cute.
But it's still just like, this is treading water, and we don't have time for this, so...
I mean, like, why would you put all of this padding at the start of your anime? I mean, assuming you're trying to use it to get an audience, I'd be willing to bet they've actually lost a lot of people they would have held on to otherwise.
Yeah, I'm really, I would be really tempted to drop it at this point, but I have a feeling if I do, something really awesome is going to happen around, like, episode 27, and everyone's going to be talking about it, and I'll feel stupid, and then I'll have to catch up.
Yeah, I'm just worried it's going to take that long.
Yeah, I'm not dropping it, but I kind of wish I could. So that's sort of not a good position to be in.
Maybe you should have it as a thing. If there's enough really good summer shows, then you can sacrifice it for one of those good summer shows.
But right at the moment we drop it, that's when it's going to get good. You know that's going to happen.
Well, I mean, if you guys want, you guys can drop it, and I'll tell you when it starts getting good again, because I plan on sticking with it for a while longer.
But the thing is, if it gets good at like episode 27, I'd still have to watch the intervening episodes. I couldn't just jump in at 27.
There's no way I'd be able to sit through all of this in a marathon session. Like, if I were trying to marathon the show and I'd come through what we have now, I'd have been done an episode or two ago, and I would never come back.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're just stuck with it for the time being. Maybe next week will be the turnaround that the show really needs, in our opinion, and then these days of filler will just be but a dim memory. We can hope. Okay, so now, because in case you're all tired of hearing my annoying voice, now we can talk about Macross Delta, where I have no part in it whatsoever. So, life, Sal, have a blast. And actually, I'm going to do the thing where I get a literal glass of water again. I'll be right back.
So, Life, what do you think of this week's Macross Delta?
Remind me what happened? It feels like it was so long ago.
The infiltration, where they're infiltrating that planet with the...
Oh! Yeah, this was the episode where Freyja was useless over and over and over again.
Much.
It's like last week they heard us talking about how useless she was, and they're like, we need to really rub this point in. Freyja is useless.
Yes, and now that they introduced two of the idols are like hackers, are like a hacking duo.
You know, I really hate the way hacking is portrayed by media because it's so incredibly wrong.
I know,
because this was so funny just watching them, like, song music is hacking stuff. I'm like, okay, I will accept this. I see this as utterly ridiculous, but I'm gonna just roll with it.
Yeah, and it was kind of neat that they actually had more solo songs instead of just the entire group singing, but just like two members.
Yeah, you know, I'll also say it's kind of interesting to note that they probably are more important to the story than Freyja or... Well, I don't know if the other idol is the older idol girl. I don't know how important she is. She seems like she's important.
I think her name was Mikami, I think? Or something like that. Like the leader, right?
You know what? I found out she's actually not the leader. The one with the red hair is the leader.
Oh, wait, serious?
Yes. They're not presenting it very well, but that's how it is.
I'm guessing that Mikami's probably the lead singer, but not the leader of the group.
Yes, that is how it was explained to me.
Wow. Like, I never got that feeling when watching the show.
Yeah, you know, it was really weird. This is the first episode where they're like, oh, hey, by the way, guys, this is what proto-culture is. I'm like, I've been whining about the fact that you haven't explained that since the beginning of the show. Yeah,
now they're reminding people who I guess didn't watch the original Macross.
Yeah, this whole episode kind of felt like, oh, by the way, we know we skipped all of this important world building that we needed to do before we move forward, so we're going to do it all now at the last second.
Also, it's kind of how they kind of explain how the Windmere were doing the whole the virus thing, and how they're still implicating it even when the planets are taking over. So it's kind of...
Yeah, they're a little less... maybe they actually
wonder one thing. Are they perhaps doing this whole conquest because maybe they want their race to be known for something before they all die because of their short lifespan?
Maybe. I think there's more to
like they're having some sort of like midlife crisis, like, oh man, what have we been doing with our lives? We need to do something. I know, let's challenge this current galactic order. Then we'll go down in history as something, as a major race created by the protoculture.
Yeah, I don't know. we need to move forward a couple episodes and maybe we'll get a better picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be 25 episodes, so they have a good amount to go for.
So who's going to die? That's the big question right now.
Yeah, and how are they going to get out of the current situation they're in now?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Yep, that's going to be it, so back to Karen.
We have Macrossed for the week.
Yeah.
Macrossing is a verb now. I'm an English major, I can decree that sort of thing. Okay, so...
I forgot, did you just get the bachelor's, or do you went for the full-on master's as well?
No, Sal, I only have a bachelor's degree. Thanks for making me point that out.
Hey, that's still good. No, hey, that's good. You saved him money and you invested it well. So
yeah, let's say that I did. Okay. This is going in weird places. Let's move on to Kuma Miko. Kuma Miko, episode 7. This was a really solid episode of Kuma Miko, which is really seems to have really hit its stride now after some shaky episodes in the beginning. I just really like the way the humor was handled in this episode, especially when she's, like, burning down the house for misusing the rice cooker, and then instead of, like, putting out the fire, they're just calmly talking about it, and Natsu's, like, telling her how to use a rice cooker while the house is literally burning down around them. That was great. Also, yes. there was Cub Chibi Natsu in this episode, which I always love. I actually hope we get a whole episode that's a flashback to him as a cub, because Cub Natsu is so adorable. And one more thing is that I hadn't really thought about it before, but now it seems really obvious, just the way the show is dealing with, what happens when this traditional animistic culture kind of bumps up against modern culture, and how they're kind of like the last vanguards of this very old way of life that almost doesn't exist anymore. And there's something that, as funny as Kuma Miko is, there's something kind of poignant and beautiful about that too, I think. And the second half of this episode really got me started thinking about that. LB, what'd you think of this one?
I agree with you that it was a really, just solid, well done episode. There were lots of parts of it that just made me very much giggle. Right in the beginning, it had me giggling because at first I felt kind of sad that Machi is actually physically tougher than me, because she was out there just chopping all that wood with all that vigor, and I was watching that sequence and I'm like, wow, I could not do that.
Yeah, and that kind of puts a lie to the fact that she was afraid of Hibiki beating her up, because she's been doing that every day for her whole life. She could probably, lay out Hibiki with one punch.
Probably. But then, a few minutes later, she was terrified of using a rice cooker, and it was made very obvious that, she just can't really use appliances, and that made me feel a whole lot better.
Electricity is terrifying, right?
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, smartphones. Devil's work.
Life, what about you?
I had this thought watching the episode that, it's actually kind of sad that Natsu can't go into, the city and stuff. And he's really, no matter what happens to this culture, like you were mentioning how it's they're the last vanguard. He's stuck there. He can't go anywhere else. I mean, he can't go into the village, or he can't go into the, the city, even though he probably knows more about it than everyone in the village combined.
Yeah. It's kind of, you find yourself just feeling very sorry for Natsu.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it was funny at the same time, but yeah, it just kind of I don't know. I also thought it was funny the way Yoshio, he was actually an amusing character this episode.
Yeah, and actually his past actions made a little bit more sense, because I don't know if you said this before, but apparently he said he's been delegated by the others to look after the Miko. So at first his interest in Machi just seemed creepy, but it's actually he's been told to do that. So
yeah, and they have been making that joke this whole time. It's just been that it's hard to notice the Women's Association joke when everyone is kind of caught up on the fact that he's a sex offender.
Yeah.
They pushed it a little too far.
Yeah, but it's funny how even when, nothing he does in the episode, even when his interactions with Machi and Natsu are fine, he'll just do something else to some random person. He just has to be a sex offender.
That poor girl with the purple hair, she's terrified of him.
And she actually says point blank, that's sexual harassment. He just doesn't care.
Yeah. He doesn't care.
Yeah. I feel like I kind of want to say something more about Kuma Miko and traditional Japanese culture, but I think these are maybe thoughts I need to let percolate, and we'll come back to some other time, because I only really just started thinking about it with this episode. So I don't know. Maybe there isn't anything profound to say about it other than, wow, isn't it kind of sad the traditional culture is going away, huh? But we'll see. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to Bakuon episode 7. I think I had my expectations cranked up maybe a little bit too high for this episode because it wasn't everything I wanted it to be, but it was still pretty funny. I love the joke where someone says they're going to bet on Hane's bike because with all of its customizations, it's like a satire on modern life, and then she's like, "What's satire?"
Hane was killing me this episode.
Yeah, and just the repeated joke about how, it's a race and they're supposed to be going full out, but they're actually relatively inexperienced motorcycle drivers, so at least at first they're all driving really conservatively. Yeah.
Right.
So I really enjoyed this episode, and I kind of feel bad for people who may have dropped it for the fan service, because I feel like they're missing out. But, that's their choice. LB, you caught Bakuon this week, right?
Yep, I did. First off, I have to say, for the second week in a row, the principal just had me rolling. I laughed so hard at her scene.
She's great.
But the actual race, there were two things about the race that made me kind of laugh and tilt my head at the same time. First off, I thought it was really interesting and vaguely at least dangerous for them to be racing in maid dresses. That confused me. I thought it was funny, but it was like, isn't that a little dangerous?
Here's the part where I admit that I actually read through the manga, and they mentioned that the maid outfits have padding in them. I don't know if they did that in the anime or not, but...
So they were wearing the maid outfits in the manga, in other words.
They were wearing them, and there's a little quick joke about, oh, hey, look, these maid outfits are covered in motorcycle gear padding.
They don't mention that at all in the anime episode, so...
It's really sad. I read through the manga, and then I caught up, and I'm like, oh, wow, the English is translated up to the end of the race. So I know nothing.
You can't tease us with Bakuon spoilers.
I can't. I know nothing.
Life, what about... well, I'm sorry, LB, you were still talking. You still had something else on this episode.
Just with the only other thing that really about the race, that really just made me laugh really hard is going along the same lines of how they were being really conservative is how Hane was using her turn signals during the race.
Yeah.
That made me laugh really hard.
And then the commentator is like, Hane is actually using her turn signal before she goes into the turn. Yeah, it was just It was really the way they handled the race was really funny, but it wasn't all over the top humor. I just like the way this show kind of handles different kinds of humor. That sometimes things are kind of funny almost because they're not that over the top, just because they're so mundane, and then something over the top will happen and it's funny in a whole different way. So I just think it's really smartly written, this show. Leif?
Yeah, I'd also say that I really loved. I want to call her Lime. Should I call her Raimu or Lime? I don't even know.
Bargain basement Celty.
Yeah, I love how there's all these. I assume they're all famous, personalities in motorcycles or racing or something that are all betting on her. Just watching her race on this tablet, it's a big deal and she's their hero. I just thought that was great.
Yeah, and then of course once that started happening, you knew she couldn't possibly win. But then
she couldn't possibly win.
But then it's she can't just lose normally. She has to lose in some spectacular way. And yup, it happened. So
yes, it happened. And all that on this little scooter that was sacrificing its life for her for the race.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
I have to wonder, how many of you think that the modern audience that is watching this series right now got the Excite Bike, this is the panel that cools down your motorcycle when you drive over it reference? I'm curious how many modern anime fans are actually familiar enough with that game to remember that.
Well, I'll tell you what, this fan didn't get it. I knew it was inspired by a video game. I couldn't have told you what specific game it was or anything like that.
Yep, it was from Excite Bike for the original Nintendo.
Well, we've been schooled.
Sorry. I just was wondering.
Nope, I didn't get it.
But I kind of got the gist of the joke that it was something out of a video game, and then, what's her name? The Ojo-sama's company spends apparently like $50 million making it real, just for the sake of this one race.
It seemed like it worked a little too well.
Yeah, I think they maybe invented something completely different, but that's why R&D is so great. Okay, so, are we done with Bakuon for this week? Ready for more motorcycle action next week?
Yep.
I think so.
Okay, so the last show of our Senpai League for this week, and you thought there was never a girl on line 6. I'm actually kind of at a loss as to what to say about this one. I liked it. I liked the conversation they had at the beginning about how looking at life in video game terms, because I think I just find that subject inherently funny. Like, once you start playing a lot of games and you start looking at life like a video game, like how that logic works, I always find funny. But the whole bit about Rushian and Akko's relationship, even after the events of last episode, it maybe seemed a little rushed to me that he was ready to confess to her. So that aspect of the episode, I was just kind of like, huh? But I mean, I'm still enjoying the show. I just, that just seemed a little bit out of left field to me. What about you, LB?
This was my personal pot calling the kettle black moment for this episode, for this series, I mean. Because I spent the vast majority of the episode going, in my head, just going, dude, it's obvious that she, is into you. Why are you stressing about confessing to her? And even after she said no, I knew that they were going to fix it, right away. Either in the epilogue or the next episode, I knew that they weren't going to leave it at that. It just wasn't going to happen. But so I was sitting there in my head going, dude, why are you stressing about this? There's no way that, this is going to go badly for you. But then after I finished the episode, I thought about it a little bit more, and I realized that I'm kind of the same way as Rushian, because I mean, with my wife, when we first started dating, I very much told her, I'm like, I am very dense when it comes to romantic things. So if you're interested in me, you need to hold up a big flashing neon sign and then use that sign to beat me over the head. Otherwise, I'm not going to get it. And to her credit, she took that and said, okay. And she did that. So, it all worked out. So, on one hand, I was thinking these things during the episode. And then afterward, I was like, okay, you know what? That's not fair. Because I'm exactly the same way. So that was what I took away from this episode. It was this whole, I can't be too harsh on Rushian.
Yeah, that does happen sometimes in an anime where you're thinking, oh, it's dumb that, this character is doing this, and then you think, oh, wait, I do that. And then you're, not sure if you could still consider it dumb. Or, maybe it is dumb, but I'm dumb that way, too. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I had any thoughts in that direction while I was watching it. I think I was just still too caught up in wait, he's confessing to her now? I thought he was still kind of processing the idea that he might like her in real life. Oh, okay, I'll just go with it. Life?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like he'd accomplished that he did like her in the last episode. I kind of felt like, okay, well, this whole episode is just here to kind of reinforce what's already happened. I don't know. I guess I had a very different take on this episode.
No, I actually have to agree with you. I took a note in my file that basically said, didn't they basically, confess to each other essentially in the previous episode? So that was something I was confused about. But then I started thinking that maybe I was misremembering and I just didn't have time to go watch the previous episode again to make sure. So I was a little confused.
I mean, with Akko, I was just kind of nodding my head. I'm like, I know exactly where this is going with Akko. This is not Akko's episode. That was last week. This is Rushian's episode.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we need to wait. Obviously, we need to wait for next week for something new to happen, because this was kind of a connecting the dots episode here. I'm kind of hoping they throw in a monkey wrench next episode, because if it's just Akko and Rushian happily doing their own thing for a whole episode, that might get dull. But I don't know. This show usually seems to kind of rise to the occasion, so they'll probably do something good next episode. Okay, so are we done with that one?
Actually, I wouldn't mind elaborating a little bit more, is that a further thought that I had is that while it might have been a little annoying, I do kind of wish they had spent just a little more time teasing the whole aspect with the new girl, the newbie in the game that they're kind of partying with these days. I know it probably, especially given that it's only a 12-episode series, that it might have gotten a little annoying and tiresome pretty quickly, but I kind of wish that they had teased that just a little bit longer, because right now it just feels like it was really just kind of crammed in there. I don't know if anybody else feels that way.
I actually kind of felt like this was the episode where, like, yeah, they confirm it was just a misdirection. It wasn't really, Akko wasn't really jealous.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious what everyone else's thoughts about that was.
Yeah, I'm glad that was kind of ended up being a small thing. It's not that I disliked her or anything, but just with the length of the show and everything like that.
Don't spend a lot. Yeah. Don't spend a lot of time on a thing we all kind of know is not really going anywhere anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so that does it for our first half. We'll now go to commercial break. Okay, I confess, I was supposed to record another commercial here, but I got too lazy to write one, so I didn't do it. So instead, I'm just going to complain about Pocky for a minute here. Like, you know how Pocky's supposed to be delicious and wonderful, and as otaku, we're all supposed to love it and everything? Well, it's nice and all, except the frosting has this really weird aftertaste, and I think it's made with really cheap ingredients. I think it's all, like, hydrogenated vegetable oil and all that. Like, I don't even think they're up to high fructose corn syrup on the kind of sweetener pyramid, you know? So I don't think I'm going to eat Pocky anymore. I think if you get one of the premium Pockies, like Almond Crush Pocky or something, it's a little bit more luxurious, a little bit better, but I think we should all just say no to regular Pocky at this point. Just have chocolate chip cookies or something. I know it's blasphemous, but I had to get that out of my system. Okay, next week, probably a real commercial. Hey, welcome back. Now we move on to our Kohai League. You're kind of not lesser shows. They're not lesser in our hearts, but maybe lesser in some people's eyes. You know, we don't judge. We're changing up the order a little bit just to make things more convenient for LB. So let's start with Shonen Maid, episode 5. I thought this was a really strong episode of this show. The first half was just really cute and touching in a way that the show was good at. And the second half, I really like the way they're dealing with the subject of his mother still being a presence on the show, even though she's passed on. It's kind of like the way they kind of contrasted the funny humor of Chihiro being really scared of the horror movie with the genuine, feelings that on some level that he kind of wishes his mother was a ghost, I think, because that means she'd still be around. And, I can't really put it into words very well, but I felt like it was a good way to deal with the kind of lingering figurative ghost of his mother's presence on the show. So I was really, really impressed by this episode. LB?
I thought the first half was, just all right. Not that I disliked it. I just felt that it was so completely overshadowed by a really strong second half. I really enjoyed, I laughed while they were watching the horror movie, and I felt bad for Chihiro, because I'm the same way with horror movies.
Oh, yeah.
But then, in the last few minutes, when Madoka is talking about the promise he made to his sister and Chihiro's mother, about, when I need help, be there for me, and, then she died, and he waited for her to ask for help, and then finally, after she died, he finally got he finally found a way to help her. I have to admit, that really touched me. I even got a little misty-eyed.
Yeah. I want to hug you over Skype. It's, yeah, it was, I think if they'd just gone super full-on with the drama, it might have been grating, but just the way that part of the episode kind of balanced that with kind of the understandable humor of Chihiro, being scared of the horror movie, but trying to pretend he wasn't scared and, overcompensating.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really, really cute and really well done. Life?
Yeah, you guys have pretty much said it all. I teared up a bit, too. It was a good episode.
Oh, and one more thing I want to say. I'm not positive that those guys at the end are actually his buds. I think at least one of the guys, the black-haired, blue-eyed one, I think he hasn't appeared yet, and he actually shows up in the next episode preview. So it's possible those 3 guys, or at least 2 of them, are dudes we haven't met yet? Maybe?
Maybe.
Oh. Okay, yeah. I mean, I've only
identified one of them.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't pay super close attention to the ending sequence when it comes on each week. I wait for it to end to see if there's any kind of epilogue, but yeah, I don't pay super close attention to the details, so yeah, I was just kind of guessing, or I thought I knew what I was talking about last week, but
Yeah, well, this is the real mystery of the season. Who the hell is in the Shonen Maid ending? Not the Lost Village, not ReZero, this. So, all right. So, we're ready to move on to High School Fleet?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, High School Fleet, episode 6. Best way to sum up this episode is, we are trapped in a literal minefield. Let's have a German food festival. I like this show. On the one hand, it kind of makes sense because the kitchen people are not involved in doing the minesweeping or anything, so they can kind of do whatever they want in the kitchen, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just, I love the way this show manages to always just juxtapose these what should be really serious life or death situations with really typical moe show stuff, and just that juxtaposition makes the moe show stuff that would otherwise maybe be kind of boring to me really amusing. So, plot-wise, I'm trying to think if there's anything really significant about this show that... Oh, Mike was getting all chewed out for being a bad captain, which she totally deserved. But then at the end of the episode, she goes on and does the exact same thing and abandons the ship, leaving poor Mashiro in charge. So I don't know what we're supposed to make of that. It kind of seemed like she was learning her lesson, maybe. And then at the end, she's like, no, I'm just going to abandon the ship again. That's the kind of captain I am. I'm a Star Trek captain. I leave the ship all the time.
You ruined the one thing I had to say about this episode.
Sorry. The fact that we share a brain is sometimes inconvenient.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
You know what? One day there's going to be an anime where we have violently different opinions, and we're going to have a huge fight. It'll be amazing.
It'll be fun.
Looking forward to that. Okay, LB, what'd you think of this one?
I have to admit that while, yes, it was, very important that, the girls were in this life or death situation where they were surrounded by mines and, various things, and 2 of the girls, went out there and were caught in an explosion and all this good stuff. I was much more interested in the German food festival. I thought the German food festival was hilarious. So from the moment, I don't remember her name, but the moment that the German chick was dealing with the natto on her tray, to the moment when the cook just passes out because the twins managed to outstage her with potatoes. Yeah, that whole sequence was hilarious to me. I loved it, and I thought it was much more entertaining than the mine situation. Though, then that got replaced once again by the epilogue with the doctor injecting herself with a weird antibody that she's not even sure is going to work. So that, again, was, but yeah, the German food festival and the doctor and the epilogue were the 2 things that really had me interested in this episode.
Yeah, no, the German girl, I think her full name is Wilhelmina, so she's Mina.
Okay.
I remember that because my mom's name is Minna, so I always notice whenever a character's named Mina in an anime. I was a little bit confused during the German food festival when they pull out sauerkraut, and I was like, wait, isn't that a Russian thing? I know Germany and Russia aren't that far apart, but I thought that was actually the national Russian dish. So I'm confused about the national boundaries of the German food festival. Life, what did you think of this one? I already took your one good comment. I know, but
you did already steal my joke. I will say that I kind of thought I'm really annoyed with the captain. I can't keep their names straight at this point. But
she
I'm
has
really annoyed
5 different names. So.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But at the same time, I also thought it was interesting. She's the competent one in what she was doing in that particular position. She probably should have just had the confidence to say, "No, this is what I'm doing. You're taking over, and if something happens, and you're the one in charge." It would. I think I would have been more okay with her doing that if she had that kind of confidence to it. Like that's the big distinguishing difference between her and a Star Trek captain is that a Star Trek captain would do it with style. She isn't there yet.
Yeah, I think it would have been a better episode if we'd actually gotten the feeling that she'd learned something. It seemed more like she kind of got chewed out by everyone, and then she was like, but then she's like, no, I'm going to do my own thing, but still doesn't really feel confident in it. She's still just going by her gut instinct, so that's how it felt.
And I get the feeling ultimately the gut feeling, the gut instinct she has is what we're supposed to buy into, but it didn't sell it very well.
Yeah, it was a little confused, I think. One more thing before we move on from High School Fleet. They mentioned that one of the jobs of the Blue Mermaids was to do things like minesweeping. And I was thinking, have we ever heard this before? Because that seemed to come out of left field to me. Anybody notice that before?
They've been saying even in the intro work that what they do with the Blue Mermaids is clean up and protect the seas. So, I mean, they didn't say anything about mines. That wasn't too shocking for me. I mean, there's kind of the sense that what they do is really ridiculous. They would be there's the aspect of the show that's super serious, and if we wanted to take the show super serious with the world building that we've been given, all these characters would be like 5 years older at least.
Yeah. Oh, and I also thought of one more thing. You know how the Admiral catches mind control chinchilla? And I was wondering if maybe the reason why the Harakaze has staved off the mind control that the other ships like the Musashi haven't is because they have a cat.
It's totally because they have a cat. The girls that came in and caught up with them earlier that were investigating, they all had cats too.
Okay, see, I want to get a cat for our house. I'd never had one. My mother was allergic. We couldn't have one. Now I have my own house. I'd like to have one, but Wilson doesn't want one. I think this is going to be part of my argument now. We need to get a cat, so if the mind control chinchillas ever come, we will be safe.
If you have rodents, cats are very good at that.
Yeah, and rodents,
yeah, I mean, I have six cats, and they bring us mice and moles and all sorts of things.
Okay, on the one hand, I guess it's good that they're taking out those pests. On the other hand, that's kind of terrifying.
little fluffy murder machines.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I guess
as long as your daughter isn't allergic to cats.
No, well, one of the reasons we're thinking about getting a pet is, the great they say a a lot of things, but they say it's better to have a pet. Like, children who grow up with pets in the house from a young age tend to have a stronger immune system. I think it's better with dogs, actually, than with cats, but I don't know if I could actually handle having a dog. I think that might be too much additional responsibility, so...
Yeah, you gotta take him or her out, plus potty training them, and
because basically having a dog would basically be like having another baby who's never going to grow up. I don't know if I'm ready to sign up for that, but
yeah, cats are better in pretty much basically every way.
Okay, well, I'm glad I have your input on this. All right, so we're done with High School Fleet for this week, and I think LB has other things to do this evening, so he's gonna leave us behind to our anime ways, right?
Yes, sadly, I have a very early morning, and I still need to, shower and cook a meal for tomorrow, and so unfortunately, I do have to depart, but thank you for having me on again this week, and I will hopefully be able to watch, all my regular shows next week, so I can play a bigger part in the show.
Sure, and don't feel bad if you can't watch everything. Lifesong and I are just freaks, that's all. Okay,
this is true.
Good night.
All right. Take care, LB.
Good night.
So now that LB is off to play with his cats, for which I'm very jealous, we're going to move on to Anne Happy, episode 6. And this was a really fun episode of Anne Happy. Just everything we like about the show kind of rolled into one package. With, again, the 30-something-year-old teacher being awesome, because that's a theme this season. But the one thing... this isn't even really critical, but the one slightly critical thing I'd say of the show is that when they introduced Timothy again, I was like, does this show even need him? Does he even really have a point in this show? That's what was my thought when I saw him again. And then basically the whole episode is about how he's useless and accomplishes nothing. So I guess the answer to my question is no, the show really doesn't need Timothy.
It really doesn't need Timothy.
I know you like this episode, Life.
Oh, I love this episode. I was laughing I had to pause the episode a couple of times. I was just laughing so hard. It all started with the scene where they're on the bridge, and the monkey has a knife, And instead of, running to the other end of the bridge or being panicked or terrified or anything, Hanako is just looking across the bridge and like, oh, look, he's got a knife. And she's just all excited and impressed. And then Botan is over there. What is her line?
How dexterous.
Yeah. Oh, I'm dying.
It just... Anne's ability to see the positive is truly awe-inspiring.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right. And then all the terrible things that happen to her when she tries to wash her silverware. Gets bit by piranha, nearly drowns. But at least the monkeys were amused by her misery.
Yeah, but, this is kind of the genius of Unhappy, though, the questions you start asking yourself, because when they showed that bit when the fish start biting her, I'm like, wait, there wouldn't be piranhas there, would they? I was like, no, of course there wouldn't be piranhas. The fish just spontaneously evolved to be carnivorous the moment she fell in, because that's the kind of luck she has.
Yes, that's the way, or some crazy tourist came through there the day before and dropped them in the lake. That's the kind of thing that would happen to Hanako.
Yeah, and someone makes a comment at some point when they're worried about Anne because they can't find her. I can't remember exactly what the...
Botan is mourning her death because... Was that what you mean?
It was... Someone says something like, well, she has the devil's own luck, so she'll probably be okay, and everybody kind of looks at...
Oh, yeah, I thought that was interesting, too. It's the straight man of the show, which is...
Hibari. I know her name now.
Yes. Yeah. She mentions she has the devil's own luck. I thought that was interesting, too.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that, because it seemed like everybody kind of looked at her askance, like, what are you talking about? But when you think about it, like, okay, she's extremely unlucky, but also she's kind of magically unlucky in such a way that probably nothing really bad will ever really happen to her, because then she couldn't continue to be unlucky. So. Yeah,
I mean, if anybody actually, fell off of bridges on a regular basis, they probably die.
Yeah, but she's like, she will probably continue to be unlucky right up to her death at 123 years of age or something like that.
Right. One thing I really want to see the show do, and I don't know if it will or not, but I wanted to do an episode where it's just like Hanako, where Hanako reveals, yeah, I know that I'm not actually lucky. Maybe that would ruin the magic of it, but I want one episode that does that.
Yeah, I don't think I hadn't really thought that much about that either way. I think there's nothing in particular I want from the show other than maybe for Hibari to get more than one joke, and that hasn't happened yet. Although on that note, when they saw, I'm sorry,
or one joke with the her crush.
Yeah, and when they saw the construction sign in the woods, at first I was mad. I was like, why would there be a freaking construction sign in the woods? That's stupid. And then I was like, oh, that's the joke, you moron. So.
Right.
So it's like I was so mad about that being her one joke, I didn't even get the point of the joke at first. So.
I think it's more than a joke too. I think it's supposed to be part of her character where we like kind of stop and we her whole thing is really weird and awkward. But at the same time, it's kind of like this weird and awkward thing that the rest of these unlucky characters have accepted about her, and that kind of gives it meaning inside the context of the story. They're not really doing anything with it, but that at least helps me accept it a little bit.
Yeah, well, I guess what keeps it from being completely boring is it's like, okay, how is that joke going to play in this episode? Because they've always got to encounter the sign in a slightly different way.
It's got to be there somewhere, right?
Yeah. Okay, so we are continuing to very much enjoy Unhappy. Another show we're enjoying is, maybe not quite as much, is Tanaka-kun is Always Listless, episode 6. What happened in this episode? Let me check my notes. And yes, I'm going back to checking my actual notes, even though it hasn't...
Got sick.
I'm sorry?
This was the episode we got sick.
Tanaka... Oh, right. Oh, okay. What I liked about this episode is how it shows if you try really, really hard to be lazy, you actually come out the other side and end up having to work hard. And I think it's funny how that happens, and I think it's funny that the show touched on that. The second half with Echizen thinking that Tanaka proposed to her was very cute, but like I kind of don't really have anything to say about it other than that was sort of a cute use of Tanaka being lazy and her completely misinterpreting it, but I don't really have anything to say about it beyond that. What did you think of this episode, Life?
Yeah, I liked it. I think that the girls are really kind of stealing the show in that they always manage to bring some kind of energy to the table. And I don't really have that much to say about Echizen other than I was surprised the joke was funny. I don't know if that I don't know if that's not me giving it too much credit or not enough credit, but it's like, oh, they're going to do this terrible tsundere joke, and it's going to be awful. And it's like, oh no, that was actually funny.
I think it was funny because she was so into it, and you didn't think she would be, so into the idea of like becoming married to one of them or something like that.
Right. Or the fact that they were interested in her, it's just kind of cute.
Yeah.
I had one more thing to say.
Sure.
Just Tanaka-kun, I think part of the reason I'm enjoying it so much is that the amount of energy he does put into being lazy reminds me of someone I actually know. And it's just kind of like, oh yes, this. I don't know if this is something he would actually do, but this sounds like something he would say.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't known a Tanaka-kun, but there's I feel like I've known people who kind of like are on the verge of going in that direction. So he's just he's just a certain personality type taken to its logical extremity.
Yeah, to an extreme.
Although I did know someone once who took a pillow to math class, but.
Oh wow, that's bad.
I'm surprised that the teacher didn't confiscate it.
Well, he was kind of a problem student, so they were just so sick of his nonsense. I think they were just like, well, pillow's the least of it.
At least he's quiet, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so that's we're gonna just leave Tanaka-kun at a brief discussion this week and move on to Haven't You Heard I'm Sakamoto, which is also going to be brief because Life didn't have a chance to watch it this week, so I'm the only one who saw it. Life, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I will tell you it features delinquents, so you will probably enjoy it.
Oh, good.
And because I promised the listeners that we were going to start giving our dream dates with Sakamoto, although it's a shame LB isn't here to hear this now. I'm gonna tell you my current dream date with Sakamoto is that we both go out to a nice seafood restaurant, and because I want to make it really nice for him, I get up to toss the salad, do like the nice Caesar dressing toss, and then I slip on a romaine lettuce leaf, and he catches me all romantic like, and he warns me that tossing salad is potentially hazardous, and I say, I know, looking into his eyes, and then we go for a walk on the beach, and then one of us I reveal I have scuba gear in my car, and then he's like, oh, what a coincidence, and he also has scuba gear in his car, and then we go scuba diving, and even though there are no dolphins in Long Island Sound, the dolphins are like, oh my god, it's Sakamoto, and we frolic with the dolphins. The end.
I just have one problem with all of that.
What's that?
Sakamoto would totally improvise. He wouldn't have the scuba gear. It just wouldn't matter.
You're right, he would just be able to breathe underwater for 3 hours. Okay, you've pointed out the error in my fanfiction. Okay, so LB, if you're listening to this, you've got to top that date next week. This is your assignment. Okay, I'm going to move on to Super Lovers, episode 7, and talk about, getting what you wish for and then being like, did I really want that? Because last week I said I wanted the show to own what it was doing in terms of the two brothers having a relationship that most would consider completely inappropriate. And this episode it started to do that because I introduced the bartender lady who saw what was going on between the two of them and was like, no, they are not just brothers. What's going on? And they had to sort of go into it a little bit. So on the one hand, I mean, good for them for taking that step forward. On the other hand, then we have that scene where Haru holds Ren down and Ren like bites his tongue off practically. And it's like, is this what I wanted? Did I really want them to go down this actually having a sexual relationship route? So now I feel kind of guilty, like I somehow made this happen.
There's the whole thing that he's like drunk out of his mind when it happens to him. It's like, I don't know. It's like they're successfully making it feel uncomfortable without doing something interesting with the fact that they're making it uncomfortable.
Yeah, because, even if a relationship is, totally normal in terms of the people involved not being brothers or, it not being a relationship that people would find in any way, unusual. If one party is flat out drunk and the other isn't, that's a problem. So, or rather, it can be a very big problem. So it's just like, it seems like this relationship has enough going on without Haru needing to be an alcoholic on top of it. So,
yeah.
I did like the introduction of the bartender lady, and I do like the fact that the show is going to move to the cafe, and I hope they just do that already so the show has something going on. Well, I
don't know. Well, I'm unwilling to believe that it will actually do that after all the fake out with Canada and everything. I mean, for all we know, they'll accomplish what they want to accomplish with their relationship as far as the bar is concerned, and then they'll move to another country.
They could just move to like Belarus or something at this point. It's that random, but Yeah, I'm afraid they might not open the cafe until episode 12 or something like that, but I tend to just like shows that take place in cafes anyway. I mean, I watched both seasons of Is the Order a Rabbit, so it tells you something about me. So.
Also, Polar Bear Cafe, which was more than 50, it was close, was it more than 50 episodes, right?
It's about 50, although the difference is I don't feel at all embarrassed about watching 50 episodes of Polar Bear Cafe. Is the Order a Rabbit? Maybe a little. But so anyway, I like the bartender lady, but of course she had to be like really, really mean in that unique super lover's way, where she just says something to Ren like,
Yeah.
"I can't believe he has to take care of you just because you're his brother." Or something. It's like, who in the world would ever actually talk like that?
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling from this whole like the whole direction this story is coming from. Like the women in this universe are all just I don't know, awful people. Like. Something along those lines. they're not very nice. Not a single one of them fit in the realm of very nice. The story even addresses it.
Yeah, well,
It even says this is how it is.
Well, isn't there? They did mention this episode. There was the one girl that Haru had real feelings for, and I wonder if it'll turn out that he had real feelings for her just because she was the only one who wasn't either insane or a total bitch. So, it could be.
Yeah, I have a feeling that it'll be that she was a complete and total mess, and that'll be where they go with it, but yeah, who knows?
Yeah, also, they keep going on about what a womanizer Haru is, and it's like, is he even that interested in women? I don't know. I think maybe he's just a womanizer because it's easy for him, not because he actually cares.
Yeah, I think that is actually a conflicting thing. I don't know how much I care that it's a conflicting thing. So it doesn't seem to be too important. But they on the one hand they're all, oh, look at how much of a womanizer he is. On the other hand, they keep saying like, look at how much he doesn't care about anyone other than his family. And they're kind of like, yeah, these two things they don't add up.
Because even if you're a womanizer, you have to at least pretend to care about the other party, at least for a little while.
Yeah,
one would think.
I mean, you're interested in something. And in Haru's case, it's like, no, he's not actually interested in anything.
Yeah. Alright, so this show continues to be... I don't know what the hell Super Lovers is, but, well, we're committed now, so we'll see what happens next week. Okay, that brings us to Cerebrus Episode 7, and this show did something that may be unprecedented in all the anime of this type that I've seen, which is that Giru takes all the information that the cast has learned over the previous 6 episodes and says, here's what I think is probably happening, and then everybody else kind of says, that is consistent with what I have experienced, let us assume that is what happens, and they go forward from there. And Giru does this having less contextual information than the viewer has, and he's right. And usually it is 100% the opposite. Usually, like, the villain will say something or someone will say something, and they'll be like, I wonder what that could mean. If only it meant blah, blah, blah. Or they're trying to figure it out for, like, 5 episodes or something. He just figures it out, like, immediately. And everybody else is on board with it. And I was like, when has that ever happened before in an anime? It was really weird, actually.
Yeah, like, I think I said this last week, too. It's like, this feels more like epic fantasy, what I'd expect from, reading... some massive novel and not a anime type novel, and it's very interesting to kind of note that. And I also kind of thought it was interesting to note, oh wow, they're moving forward with this quickly all of a sudden since they did exactly that. Like, oh, we know what's going on. Like, okay, well if we know what's going on, then all of a sudden the plot can move forward at an incredible rate.
Yeah, see, I was really expecting them... I was not expecting them to figure out what the connection was with Dagen-Zat immediately. I thought that was going to linger until at least, like, episode 10 or something. So now it's they could do anything.
Yeah, they did that, and at the same time they did it, and it wasn't like he just immediately pulled out the power and he could use it. They made a good joke of how, okay, yes, you might have some power from Dagen-Zat, but you don't have any clue what you're doing with it.
Yeah. I like that bit where, like, he's trying to go super, and he's just like, it just kind of looks like he's constipated.
Yeah, he couldn't pull it off. I think that there's going to be, if we get nothing out of the show, I think that we'll get to the end, and there will at least be one moment where we're just, like, cheering for him when he finally pulls it off.
Yay, go Hero. I like Hero. I mean, you were saying...
I do too.
You've been saying that a lot of people on the internet dislike him, and it's one case I really don't get it. I think he's likable enough.
Yeah, I do think he's kind of dense, but at the same time, I think his character works really well.
Oh, Life. So I guess from the experience you're having with it, might be another good anime that's based off a cell phone game that the story has nothing to do with the cell phone game, and the anime rocks.
I have no idea. I mean, if the game has any kind of story or not. I mean, I kind of did that research with Bahamut and found out that it didn't. But there's actually not that much I can find out about this particular game, so I have no idea. But yeah, it is kind of following that pattern. It's not nearly as good as Rage of Bahamut, which like from episode one is impressive. This show has just kind of been like, wow, I'm impressed by how much it's managed to grab me and hold my attention over a span of time without really doing all that much.
Yeah, I'm just impressed that it surprises me. Because I think, okay, fantasy anime based on a game going to be, very tropey and dull, and it's not. And just for that alone, I like it.
Yeah, and I don't see anyone else noticing that either. People are like, "Oh, this is dumb and predictable." Like, no, it's not. You have no idea what's going on here. You're just completely right. You're dismissing it, but you're not actually predicting it.
Okay, yeah, I noticed that. I've been noticing that for years. So people complain about how predictable something is. I'm like, okay, I want to see one example where someone who was saying that actually predicted any of this stuff that was going to happen beforehand. Because like when people were complaining in the first season of Sword Art Online that it was predictable, it's like, oh, so you predicted they were actually gonna end up beating the game like 40 levels before they thought they were going to beat it, and so on.
There's another real annoyance there too, and that is they read it on TV tropes and they know what's going to happen because they've already spoiled themselves, and then they complain like they don't.
Oh yeah, that's the absolute worst. Yeah.
Oh wait, shall we save this topic for a special themed podcast if you want to do that, Karen? Because
yeah, I could read about that quite a bit.
Because we still have the TV leak to go through.
You're right, and Sal's been very patiently waiting for like 3 hours to actually talk again. So. Okay, we're done with Cerebrus for now. Moving on to our Chibi League and Tonkatsu DJ Agetarou, episode 6. After last episode was actually kind of important with him doing his first DJ gig, I thought this one was actually a little bit of a throwaway, but still enjoyable. Kind of a one-joke episode that he just gets really into the concept of chilling. Apparently he has never relaxed in his life before, and it was a novel concept to him.
It was consistent with his personality that he had never considered it before.
Yeah. Sal, what'd you think of this one?
I don't know, that part when it went like, chill, that resonated with me big time. Like, I was like, yep, that's how I feel whenever I'm relaxing or just having a good time. Just not wanting to do anything major.
See, it made me just want to sit and watch TV and play video games all day, and I was like, I really shouldn't do that. I have things to do. Life, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, I was just really amused by it. I don't know, there's really not that much to say. It was one joke over and over and over again. It was funny to see how it continued to escalate, I guess.
Yeah, well, the charm of a short anime, and Pande Peace needs to learn this, is that one joke per episode can work if you do it right. So.
Yep.
All right.
Also, not having an opening helps too.
Wait, the Tonkatsu DJ doesn't have an opening, right?
The closest thing is that DJ music you hear at the beginning of every episode, but the skit is still starting during that song. Right,
but thank you for reminding me, actually, because I think this episode was it was either the first one that had an ending, but it was definitely the first one that had this ending, and it kind of seemed like a season finale kind of thing, but I'm pretty sure it's not the season finale.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be another, because Crunchyroll says there's another episode coming up this week, so...
Yeah, I guess they just, I don't know, finally... Maybe they were working on editing the ending all the time. It just wasn't done until now. I don't know.
I just had this hit me, but I realized that I'm at least invested enough in this show that I'd be sad if it ended right now.
Which is something in and of itself. I mean, yeah, I don't want it to end either. Aw. But maybe we should take my bias for all food-related anime into account here. So.
And once again, Karen, thanks for digging up that show when you decided to watch it.
Well, basically, I just threw everything to the wall and watched everything that's stuck and everything that didn't, so I can't really take much credit. And I still feel bad there are some things I'm not watching, because we're actually not discussing some of the most talked about shows this season, but it's just there's a limit to how much,
We're missing 2 of them, but it's okay. We can talk about them later.
Yeah,
I watched them, so I can bring it up later.
Yeah, we'll get to it eventually.
What shows are they, out of curiosity?
Kabaneri and Kurobukuro.
I was actually thinking of Conrevo, but sure, that's 3. Okay, so we're going to move on to Space Patrol Luluco Episode 7, and apparently we were all completely right last week when we said we are in the Kill La Kill universe. I wonder if that means that Lalako's insane behavior can be explained by the life fibers, or if that's just me, like, thinking about it too much. But, this episode was really funny.
The original life fiber died, so I don't know.
Well, they said there were various life fibers across the universe.
Oh, is that how it works? I don't.
Like
I love this episode. This episode was like, I'm glad I stuck with this.
Yes. Also, the fact that they brought back the Kill la Kill signature song, it was priceless the way they threw it in.
Yeah, there's probably someone out there, not a lot of people, but at least someone who's watching this who hasn't watched Kill la Kill, who's just like, huh? What?
Yeah, it probably was not a very amusing episode for them. But there's like a couple of things in there that are just like mind-blowing revelations for Kill la Kill fans. Like, Guts' parents are in the episode. You're like, wait, he wasn't a normal dog after all?
Wait a minute, I missed that. Go back.
Oh, you didn't see? Yeah, at the end of the episode, the two dog people, which I guess is like a planet of dog people. I don't know. They only show them there for just a moment, and they have their life fiber snap with the fire, and they're all mourning Guts.
Oh my goodness! I remember there being something with Guts, and I was like, I know there's something I'm missing because I'm not remembering something.
So that was the dog in Kill la Kill's name. I never knew his name.
I think that was his name, unless I'm just imagining that. But I was like, wow, that's really, really great. And then the other thing was, wait, I kind of feel like I need to go back through Kill la Kill and watch every episode and see, did they really never try lighting them on fire?
I know. I was going to say, did no one tell Ryuko that they were flammable?
I was just like, wow, that's like...
I'm starting to
dumb, but it's so funny at the same time.
Wait, maybe there was something similar, because didn't the nudist beach mechs have some sort of missiles? Those are kind of flammable, so...
but explosions and actual, like, ignition aren't necessarily the same thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, well, also, I guess Senketsu did burn up on re-entry, so...
Yeah,
so there is that.
True.
But then it's like, in retrоспect, it's like, why did this not occur to anyone during the original, like, 24-episode run of Kill la Kill that this would happen?
That's the part of it that just really amused me, was like, I never had that thought. I think I really have that thought, but in this show, I never had that thought.
You wonder if maybe someone at Trigger was wondering the whole time, will someone realize that these life fibers should actually be very vulnerable to fire, and no one picked up on it during the show, and then this is them, like, poking fun at the viewers, like, ha-ha.
I kind of doubt that, knowing them and the way they kind of, like, they didn't even really plan Kill la Kill, they just went with it. Like, they even admit that. I kind of doubt that, but I'd like to think that it's true.
Yeah, it would be funny if that were the case.
I heard that they did have some plans with the story of Kill la Kill, just that it didn't go as planned.
Yeah, they planned up to, like, episode, like, I don't know, 8 or 9, and then they ran out of script, and they're like...
Because keep in mind that Imaishi came up with the idea of Kill la Kill while he was working on Panty and Stocking. So
okay, I don't know that much of the details. I just remember reading things online about how they were completely off the wall, and that seems to be their thing.
Oh, something else occurred to me. I wonder if there'll be a Kiznaiver reference by the time Kiznaiver and Luluco end at the same time.
She'll get the Kiznaiver system with her mom, and they'll bond.
Like if this whole trigger anime verse theory is true, and Luluco is the show that's holding it together.
Oh God.
I kind of think it'll be more of the Imaishi verse than the actual Trigger verse, but it would be neat to see that.
Yeah, I'm on board to see more connections between the various Trigger worlds. So, although I may have to actually go back and see some Inferno Cop because I've never seen it. But the character who's always talking about justice on the show, who's like the floating head kind of thing, I assume he's from Inferno Cop, right?
Yeah, he is Inferno Cop.
Gotcha. Okay.
I hated Inferno Cop.
Oh, really? Interesting.
I only watched a little bit of it. I just like, this is not funny, but maybe you'll have a different experience.
It's like a specific style of humor, but again, like. I think what Trigger was going for that show, that they wanted to prove that you don't need a huge budget to create a very creative or ridiculous show. Yeah, and they wanted to show that they could do that.
As long as you
Really
brought that
ridiculous.
up during when people were complaining that how little animation some of the episodes Kill La Kill had, I don't want to say the whole show had animation that was lacking, because it really depended on which episode you were watching. But I remember thinking during that time, this makes me want to open up Anime Studio and just make an anime, because like you could actually use a lot of still pictures and make a short anime. Probably, I'm not going to say without a lot of effort, but I mean, it's not as difficult. If you think you need to have actual fluid animation, making an animation becomes a huge project. If you allow yourself to kind of take the Trigger approach, it can potentially be much easier. So I always feel bad when I'm watching Trigger anime that I'm not making my own anime.
To be fair, though, most of Trigger's folks are veterans, so you're seeing that veteran work despite the limited budget.
Oh, you mean 40 years of experience actually matters and stuff? All right. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to our last show on the list, which is Pan de Peace, episode 7. What was this episode? Noah-chan got sick. I didn't really have anything to say about this episode. It was a pretty par for the course episode of Pan de Peace. I thought the bread actually looked very inviting in this episode, and I wanted to eat some of it, but that's pretty much all I had on it. And the sleeping bag looked kind of comfortable, too. Sal?
Glad they actually had a bread that actually had fruit in it. Unlike melon bread.
You are still mad at that melon bread. It is like your arch nemesis.
I remember that. I remember that moment when I realized it as well, and I was just like, this is incredibly disappointing.
Yeah.
Life, what did you think of this episode of Pan de Peace?
All I remember from the whole episode was that her sleeping bag looked like some kind of dessert.
Yeah, it was that thing that Konata from Lucky Star would eat a lot.
Yeah, and I
kept-
haven't...
What is that? I do recognize
They
it.
said what it was in the episode, but I forgot.
A chocolate
they?
coronet?
Yeah! That's what it was.
See, I haven't seen all of Lucky Star, but I think I saw the first episode where they were eating the chocolate coronet, so I was like, oh ho, I got that joke. Go me. So. Alright, so anything further on Pan de Peace? It's usually a pretty easy thing to end with, because we only discuss it for like a minute,
Yeah.
so... Okay,
What was
so...
the one joke?
I'm sorry?
Did it have one?
One joke? I don't think so. Oh, no, there was one joke. Because when Noah-chan is all wrapped up in the chocolate coronet sleeping bag, at one point she says, "Charging!" I thought that was kind of cute. So that counts. That's a joke, sort of.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Okay.
And I guess one of the strawberry paste bread being used as a reviving potion.
Oh, yeah, that was cute.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was good.
So it had Pan de Peace had up to 2 jokes this week, depending on what you consider a joke. So yeah, you go Pan de Peace, you go with your bad self. Okay. All right, so I think we're done. That's enough chatting about anime for this week. We will see y'all next week when maybe Big Order will make some sense, but we doubt it.
That's a tall order right there.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Take
Good
care.
night.